We have a good group of folks here behind me. We're going to hear from Commissioner Tom Sorrell of MnDOT, Sher Knutson from the AFL-CIO, Harry Melander with the St. Paul and State Building Trades Council. We also have with us, we have Erica Nelson from Senator Klobuchar's office, and just want to thank Senator Klobuchar. Yesterday she introduced the Rebuild America Jobs Act, which would provide $50 billion in infrastructure spending and create $10 billion national infrastructure bank that would allow us to move forward on critical projects and infrastructure in this country. We stand here today because we are at the base of the Lafayette Bridge, which many of you know was one of the most, I guess, the bridge of most concern prior to the collapse of the 35W bridge a few years ago. Prior to that, this bridge was targeted as the #1 bridge that needed repair and replacement. But it's not just about repairing our crumbling infrastructure, which is critical. It will allow us to move our goods and services faster into commerce. It will help our businesses grow, help our businesses do their job. But it also puts people to work. And it's absolutely critical at a time where our economy is struggling, where too many men and women are struggling to put food on the table, where too many of our building and construction trades members are without employment or have been so for a long time. We have a great opportunity to use this money that has been a part of the Jobs Act, the Infrastructure Bank, to put Americans back to work, to fix critical infrastructure projects, to help our businesses grow, to help our communities grow, and we need to move forward. There will never be a better time to do it. There will never be a better time to do projects like the Lafayette Bridge. You can go across this country. There are airports that need expansion and fixing. There are highways, there are bridges, there are streets across America, there are sewer systems, you name it. There are so many infrastructure projects that have been delayed for way too long. And at a time where we need to get Americans back to work, it is absolutely critical that we pass this bill, that we support the hard work of the men and women in the United States Congress and the President of the United States, get this jobs bill passed, get the $50 billion to work in America, and get Americans back to work.
The mayor did a fantastic job capturing many of the infrastructure concerns that we have, not only in our state, but in our country. And you know, at MnDOT, we have a vision for transportation. We want to be a global leader and provide for a world-class transportation system in our state. And we recognize that we need to compete in this global environment. We understand there's a global competitiveness out there and that we need to be part of that. We also know that we need to provide for a quality of life for our citizens, not only so that they have an extreme quality of life to live here, but we attract people to our state and retain people in our state. But we know we can't do it alone. We know we have to work very well in collaboration with our cities and our counties, and the folks that are standing here behind me play a critical role in that. And it's truly a collaborative effort in moving these infrastructure jobs forward. And you look at the backdrop for this event, the Lafayette Bridge, the mayor talked about that, but I think it's a great example of the infrastructure needs that we have in our country. This is a critical project, not only in St. Paul, but in our state. This roadway carries more than 75,000 cars a day. It's a main entrance to downtown St. Paul, and it's a pretty complex project. You know, we've got an airport close by, we've got busy city streets underneath the project, we've got a waterway here. So it's a very, very complex project, but in the end it'll improve safety in the area and reduce congestion, and I think it really represents what the mayor's talking about here, the infrastructure needs that we have in our state and in our country. We know this project will support hundreds of jobs during its duration, and the roadway and bridge will continue to support the thousands of folks who live and work in the downtown St. Paul area. But this is just one example of the many infrastructure needs we have in our state. We have more than 19,000 bridges that are 10 feet or longer. MnDOT manages more than 4,500 of them. As these bridges age, they will require more work to maintain them. We also manage over 11,000 miles of roadway in the state. We got to keep the pavement smooth and safe, and it requires an ongoing effort and funding. This past year, we announced the Better Roads for a Better Minnesota program to try to start to tackle that ongoing pavement problem. And congestion in the Twin Cities is an issue. We know that. We all have experienced that. We've got hundreds of thousands of motorists traveling our roadways each day trying to get to their destination on time. We're working very hard to address congestion in our area. We're using technology. You can see examples of technology all over the Twin Cities, and we're trying to expand the use of technology. We're trying to improve interchanges in a different way using performance-based design, and those solutions will look much different to the traveling public than they have in the past. We know the highway heavy construction industry supports thousands of jobs each year. Any infusion of funding will serve to provide more work for the businesses that build and maintain our infrastructure. That in turn will support more jobs. I think it's commonly accepted that investments in transportation infrastructure is a job creator, and it has many facets. It's the road builders, it's the bridge builders, it's the consultants, it's the designers, it's the vendors, it's the suppliers. And it also supports induced economic growth. I don't think anybody will dispute that any infrastructure project will support induced economic growth, and that's something that shouldn't be lost in this discussion. At MnDOT, we welcome any new funding, including long-term funding from a national transportation bill that we sorely need, and we're working very closely with our congressional representatives to make sure we have a national transportation bill that covers many years and provide funding for the many needs that we have in our state. And any infrastructure will provide needed jobs for our state and will support jobs. And I can assure you that at MnDOT we will be ready, and it'll be a tribute to the great people that are standing behind me. We'll be ready for any money that comes our way, and we'll create jobs in this state. So thank you.
As you may know, the Minnesota AFL-CIO is a statewide labor federation of more than 1,000 affiliated local unions who represent more than 300,000 working men and women across the state. And one of our goals, is to advocate and organize so that all Minnesotans have access to a family-sustaining job, high-quality, affordable health care, a good education, and that they can work and live and retire with dignity and security. First of all, I'd like to thank Mayor Coleman for highlighting the need to pass the Rebuild America Jobs Act today. It's cold, but the message is clear from all of us. We know that the only way we're going to get this economy turning around, both here in Minnesota and across the country, is to get more people back to work. Now, as Minnesotans, we really don't need to be reminded of the important role that infrastructure plays both in our safety and in our community, and in our economy. In this act, we have the opportunity to both create jobs and also make the much-needed infrastructure improvements, like the one we see above us. If we pass the Rebuild America Jobs Act, we will immediately put people back to work building our infrastructure. But it's important to remember that there's a multiplier effect to this action. When people are getting a good paycheck, it means that they have just a little more money in their pockets to spend in the local economy. That may mean that they can take a family member out to eat on a birthday, to celebrate a birthday, or they can purchase some new clothes for the kids when they go to school, or maybe replace that worn-out car. That restaurant owner, that clothing store owner, or the car dealer sees their business pick up because of this, because there's more people spending. And that business chances are they are likely to hire more people, which means even more are back to work in the economy. Now, this is a common sense policy we're talking about that's good for Minnesotans and for our economy. That's why key portions of the bill have been endorsed by labor and business, by Republicans and Democrats. So on behalf of Minnesota's working people, we thank and commend Senator Amy Klobuchar for taking the lead in sponsoring the Rebuild America's Jobs Act in the Senate. And additionally, we call on Minnesota's entire congressional delegation to follow Senator Klobuchar's leadership to get this bill passed so Minnesotans can get back to work sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Americans want to work. Thank you, Mayor Coleman, Commissioner Sorrell, President Knutson, for taking time from your busy schedule to bring attention to a growing challenge. Jobs in Minnesota, jobs in America. The lack of jobs is a crisis for 99% of America who are struggling to find work, pay the bills, and make ends meet. Without creation of good jobs, we cannot restore balance to our economy. Like the American Jobs Act, the Highway Bill invests in bridge, roads, and transit. It's the largest piece of job-creating legislation and will create millions of good jobs doing work that desperately needs to be done. And in order to keep our economy moving, we must extend unemployment insurance, which will help the nation's unemployed workers keep food on their table during these tough job searches, the toughest job searches of their life. Unless Congress passes, millions of hardworking Americans will be cut off the emergency lifeline as of December 31st of this year. Investing in infrastructure creates jobs and yields lasting benefits for the economy, increasing benefits, productivity, and economic growth. Upgrading roads, bridges, and other basic infrastructure creates jobs by putting people to work, earning good middle-class incomes, which extends the consumer base for businesses. Now is the time for Congress to act to create millions of jobs and put Americans back to work. We need solutions. Invest in America's infrastructure, our schools, our roads, bridges, transit, ports, rails, communication, and energy systems. Revive U.S. manufacturing and stop exporting good jobs, keep them here in America. Help stop the deep cuts to state, municipal, public services and public service layouts that drain down our economy and threaten communities. And help solve the massive shortfall of consumer demands once again by extending unemployment benefits. And finally, reform Wall Street to help Main Street create jobs. On infrastructure and job creation again, we need to pass the federal jobs bill, including the highway bill, to get Americans back to work. With millions of Americans unemployed, now is the time to make long-lasting investments in infrastructure that not only will get people to work today, but pave the way for long-term economic growth. Thanks again for helping Mayor Coleman, Commissioner, President Knutson. People in our region, our state, our nation need your help. People in St. Paul, our state, our nation want to go back to work.
Thanks, everyone. We will be available for questions if there are any here, but I appreciate everybody coming. Let's get this bill passed. Let's get $50 billion back to work so we can get Americans back to work. Let us continue to rebuild our infrastructure in this country and move our country forward. Thank you very much.